Today we have with us Nerissa Golden. She's the founder and editor of Montserrat's top digital travel and information platform, Discover Montserrat. Nerissa is the author of 7 books, including The Making of a Caribbeanpreneur, Strategies for Overcoming Fear and Building Wealth, and a 30-day guide to living happy. With more than 30 years in traditional and new media, Nerissa's company Goldenmedia LLC develops communication strategies for multilateral agencies, non-profit organizations, and governments to tell stories which influence change. Nerissa currently serves as an advisor to the Covella Foundation and the Montserrat Tourism Stakeholders Advisory Council and sits on the Fiber Optic Task Force. She's currently creating a learning platform at trulycaribbean.net to mentor a new generation of Caribbeanpreneurs. Help us welcome Nerissa Golden.
Hi. Welcome, Nerissa, to the summit. We have been looking forward to having you just like our other guests, but because this is entrepreneurship, and you wrote the book Caribbeanpreneur, we've been looking forward to the gems that you will share. And so Raquel and I will be we are doing tag teams. I'll ask you some questions and she'll also ask you some, and we're just going to have a wonderful time. So welcome to this summit.
Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations for putting on this fabulous event. I've really been enjoying the sessions that I've been at.
Okay. All right, Nancy. So your book, Caribbeanpreneur, I mean, the name alone, the very first question is, how did you come up with that name and how did you come up with that book? So I really wanted to tell me about that book, but especially where did that name come from in your head?
The Making of a Caribbeanpreneur, Strategies for Overcoming Fear and Building Wealth. That's the whole title of the book. I knew that when I wanted to write the book on entrepreneurship for Caribbean people, it needed to really bring to mind what makes us special. Because when I first became an entrepreneur and I started looking around, there wasn't much conversation happening around entrepreneurship in the region. A lot of the things I was finding online was about American businesses, European and other parts of the world. And I realized no one was talking about our unique situation. And it was having lived around the region, having visited a lot of the islands, I realized we had some common issues. And so I wanted to create a book that really reflected some of that. And it also came out after hosting a Caribbean entrepreneurship conference, my first conference, Young Entrepreneur Symposium. And I recognized when I was bringing all of these entrepreneurs together that yes, truly we did have common dreams, but we also had common challenges. So I wanted to create my own word. And so I thought Caribbeanpreneur sounded like something that I could grasp.
Okay, wow. And so your book, how was that birth? Because, was it from the summit that you speak of? Like, how did you go about writing that book?
Actually, the book starts, and Ruth and I were talking about it right before the session started, is that the book opens with me telling you I originally wanted to write a book. And I figured if I was going to be a writer, I needed to have somewhere to sell it. So I thought if I'm writing a book about entrepreneurship, if I brought a bunch of entrepreneurs together, they'd want to buy my book. But then the symposium became bigger than the book. It became so massive in my head, and the focus was on that. I had the conference and the book was never published. In fact, I think I had 2 conferences before the book was actually published. And so the book is actually a combination of 3 of the workshops that I presented in those 2 first conferences. Okay, I'm interested in the symposium, the Youth Entrepreneur Symposium that you had, I think it's in 2006.
And as I read the book, the story there kind of gripped me. Uh, what was the idea behind this symposium, and how did it tie into your story in terms of helping um, young people with entrepreneurship? What sparked that?
It actually came about because I was just leaving a marriage. I just gotten divorced. I had 4 children under the age of 5. And so I knew my life needed to take a completely different turn. I was an entrepreneur before I got married, and I recognized even through my marriage how working for myself gave me the flexibility to really raise my children. So that was the focus for me, was having a life where they were completely involved in it, and also recognizing that I had skills that I could leverage to create that. So the focus of the symposium was actually to um, look especially at Caribbean people who had creative talents. So there were dancers, filmmakers, writers. Those were my focus. Wasn't somebody that wanted a traditional job to go sit in an office. They wanted to learn how to leverage those natural skills that they had often, in a way that they could create the life they wanted. And so the symposium came out of me literally calling up friends and saying, I want you to come speak at my event. And I saw that there was this surge of push towards being more creative. We were starting now to play with making more movies across the region. More people were publishing books. We had a lot more music. I think Tempo had come out around then, so people were now putting their music out on an international platform. And I thought we needed to come together to talk about how we can actually make it a business and not just be something that we were doing for fun.
Okay, so I like that because it plays into what we're doing in terms of entrepreneurship. We normally hear that when you write a book, you don't make any money. And just the whole thing of being an entrepreneur, it is challenging because you're stepping out on faith and you're not necessarily sure the steps to take. So I want you to just guide us. If there are persons in our audience, I am challenging them to become an entrepreneur. Authors don't like business, most authors. What advice would you give us who want to step out on this entrepreneurial journey? Based on your expertise, your own story, what would you say to us who want to venture into author entrepreneurship or just any kind of entrepreneurship?
Well,
I mean, entrepreneurship.
right. Well, the first thing about being an entrepreneur is that you are setting up a business with the intention of making money. So you have to make up your mind, I am going to make money with this. And I know there is the perception that you can't, or being an author isn't the best way to make money in a marketplace. But I do know a lot of authors who are, that's their primary source of revenue. And yes, they are further ahead in the game, but they are living off of their income. So it's not impossible. I think what we're saying is that it's not the only thing. You have to be able to take the book and leverage it and turn it into other things. That's what author entrepreneurship is. It's really about seeing the book as the start and then seeing how else can I turn it into that. So the first thing is to make up your mind you're in business to make money. You're not just there to buy time. Because I think when you put that mindset in, then you begin to think, okay, if I need to use my time to make money, how much time do I have and what is the value of this time? And that's going to be different from for you and me. I think one of the things in the book is when I first met, it was this a Dutch woman, Annika de Bruin, and she worked for herself. She had her office in one of the most expensive buildings on St. Martin at the time. And I just loved the way she carried herself. I said, so how do you decide how you're going to price what you're doing? She says, I decide on the life I want to have, and then I price accordingly. It had nothing to do with the economy, whether she thought people were willing to pay for it or not. She made a decision that I want to make 100,000 a year, 1 million a year, and she priced accordingly and marketed accordingly and presented herself accordingly. So if you walked into her business, you knew you weren't going to be paying $25 an hour for her time. You are literally going to be shelling out proper money for her quality service because she presented herself as quality. So we have to do the same thing as well for our books. And if we know that the words that we've been given are valuable, then it means then that we must value it and be willing to say, here's my book. It does cost money to purchase it, you know, or come to my workshop. It's not free, you know, come and invest in it. It's really important that it starts with us, because if we don't value it, no one else is going to value it at the level that it should. You'll always feel disrespected. So that would be the first thing I would say, is just about knowing your value, and two, making up your mind you're going to make money.
Okay. Oh, you were going to go ahead, Ruth? Go ahead.
No, Raquel, just take it away right there.
All right, awesome. You know, as a freelancer myself, a lot of the times I do come across people saying the same thing as you, where they're like, you price according to the life that you want to live. I mean, of course, they probably use different terms. So, you know, they're saying, okay, decide how much you want to earn, that same formula, and price accordingly. Coming back to the struggles that you notice Caribbean or Caribbean people were having in going into business and any kind of business, can you share some of those problems that you would have noticed in your side of the woods? Perhaps, you know, because we're Caribbean, we might also be facing the same struggles. And I think it helps to see if you went through it and this is something that you went through, but you overcame. So if you could share some of the struggles that perhaps you also endured on your writing / publishing journey and how you overcame them, especially to perhaps when it comes to pricing of your book.
I will just say the one of the common ones that I think I still struggle with it, because it's just about how we were raised, is just understanding that we are naturally creative. My definition of a Caribbeanpreneur is a Caribbean person who is multi-passionate and has multiple streams of income, right? And so you have all of these different things competing for your time, because some of the authors told you they were able to sit there, write, edit their book, do the cover, and kind of handle it all. And somebody else was like, no, I don't want to touch that. It's because naturally we are going to try to do it all ourselves and figure it out. And so what we don't realize is that we can't always do it alone, and we do need help, we do need support. But it's also just simply, we take it for granted that we are creative, and we don't know that it's valuable, because everybody around us can sing and dance and create a dance and put on a show and all of these different things that we just do it. Nobody ever gets up and tells you, oh, here is how you do it. Caribbean people seem to naturally know to do a lot of things. So suddenly when I come to you and tell you you have to spend $10 on my book, I'm like, well, you and I come from the same yard, same school, same everything. Why do you think I must pay you $10 for the book? Because I don't see that what you did took any extra effort than what I've done. I just haven't bothered to put it in a book, what we're saying. So we naturally don't see each other and the things that we create that way. We do give that preference to people from abroad, people of a different color, and we see the way they treat their product and what they do, but we don't do that for each other. And so part of becoming a successful entrepreneur is raising your value level and seeing yourself as an artist and seeing yourself as a business person. And that often means not looking for your friend to validate you or your family to validate you. I think the first day someone talked about a prophet having no honor in his own country. That's biblical, you know. Stop looking for your friends and your family to buy a book. One, I always try to create the book that I want to read, first of all. And then I just say, it's my pleasure to share it with you, you know. But the truth is, I get a kick out of just writing the book. And often I can actually stall myself sometimes, because I get so excited that I've got this great idea for a book that I'm too excited to settle down and write it. So I write simply because it's my personal pleasure. I get up every day and work in my business because I enjoy doing that. And it really was about designing the life I want and using those skills that I have to do that. And I see that as a challenge across the region. I was talking to a colleague, and she was struggling with wanting to focus on her son and focus on a new venture versus doing the thing that everybody has always expected her to do. And I said, you know what, that other thing is going to be there in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but this opportunity you have to be with your son to start a new idea that you think will have more long-term gains, is you won't get this chance again. So, dive into that. And I think sometimes we're waiting for other people to give us permission to go off and do these things. And you should just know that's your God-given right to get up and just live the life that you want and make the choices that you want.
Okay. All along, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your story and I'm listening to you talk about value. And let me tell you, as a freelancer, and you said something to me about a prophet, it doesn't get the recognition that they deserve in their own, and I'm paraphrasing, in their own country. I offer my services almost exclusively to internationals because what I've noticed is that if I quote my rates, and I don't even think my rates are super high, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to pay that, that's too high. And so you, being a Caribbeanpreneur, creating profits beyond your books, do you find it challenging to get other Caribbean nationals or people on your island to purchase your products and your services at your cost? Do you find that you have to be haggling, you have to be lowering your rates, or you're like that, was it the Dutch woman that you said, and she has her posh office, and so you set up yourself a certain way and you're like, well, I charge $1,000 per hour, so you can take it or leave it. So how is it?
That's something I had to grow into, because that book, I also talk about the fact that I remember when I lived on the island of St. Kitts, and these men had approached me about setting up an organization for them. And when I told them I'm going to say, I don't remember what it was probably 5,000 EC a month, right? And they said, where do you think someone's going to pay you that? They looked at me like that. And at the time, I didn't have a response for them because I didn't know my value. I didn't know what I knew I could do it, but I didn't have a comeback for them. Since then, I have learned that not everyone is my customer. Because one of the things that I want to do is when you pay me, I want to be absolutely excited to work for you. And so I am not excited if I've discounted myself so low that it's not even going to put gas in my car, or I can't even pay a bill after you paid me. And usually you'll find the people that you discounted down so low, they still have to turn around and be like, okay, can I pay you next week, next year? You're struggling, you're running after them, and it's just costing you too much. So you have to decide that not everyone is your customer, and then go after the people. Or in fact, I don't even go after them. I find that they're attracted to me just simply because I've set my standard and I've just continued to work at that standard and refine that standard. Because every now and again, you will get those challenges and you just have to say, no, this is not the opportunity for me. You have to be willing to say no a few times sometimes before you get the one that you want. And that's not always easy to do when you have bills to pay and things like that. Honestly, there have been times when I prefer to work for that person for free rather than discount it so low that I know it's not even going to be meaningful to them. I'd be like, I'll do it for free. You just give me a good review or something like that, versus saying I'm going to do it for $50 when I really know it was worth 5,000. It's not worth it to me.
I completely agree and understand, because I think almost every time I've had to discount my rates to work with a particular client, it has never ended well.
Yeah.
And I know I got a hunch for one client once, and I said, you know what? I'm going to give you 1 week free of my time and my services. It still didn't work out, but it was on, it was on them. And I'm like, this is just free. So this is a good lesson in showcasing our value in all right. So this is a good lesson in showcasing our value. Ooh.
Right. Nerissa, thank you, and Raquel for bringing that up. The thing about being creative, as you said, is that these things come so naturally. So it is not difficult. I can stay up all night and write a book.
Right.
And because it comes so naturally, we find it challenging. Well, I found it very challenging to start charging people.
Right.
So for a long time in my own business, it wasn't profitable. I was helping my clients, but I was just struggling to make ends meet. And someone sent me a TED talk. She said, no one will ever pay you what you're worth. But if you know your worth and put that out there, you will find people who will pay you. So for the person who is struggling like I was, and I still do sometimes, it was Raquel who helped me to, when I was going to the first coaching program, she said, don't do it for free. You've been doing so much for free. Start with a price. Start with a minimum price that nobody will ever see again. At least do that. Get in the habit of charging. So for somebody who has struggled deeply with that, pricing and charging for what comes naturally, what are the tips to help them to overcome that?
It's a wonderful question, by the way.
I wish I knew the secret to that, because I think you're going to actually hit that barrier every single time you need to plateau and go up a little more. So the next time you have to now put on $1,000 coaching program or $5,000 coaching program, you're gonna like, oh my God, I can't do this. Who's gonna pay it? So it's something that you know you are going to hit it every single time you are now stretching yourself. But I mean, I try to keep it simple. I've got 4 kids. I got to feed them. So while I personally would love to do this work for you for free, just because it's good and I enjoy it, they're going to go looking in the fridge and say, Mommy, there is nothing in the fridge. Or the landlord is going to call me and say, you're late with the rent again. So if you think about the fact that your work has value, put a value on it that's going to comfortably allow you to do that. I mean, I have challenged God at times and say, you know what, God, I'm going to do this thing. You say you want me to write, I'm just going to sit here and write. I'm not calling anybody for no jobs. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just going to sit here and write books all day. Because if you say, Nerissa, you must write books, it must mean you're going to pay the rent. Because if I'm sitting here and the books don't sell, then what? And I did that one time, and I have to tell you, God came through. Provided he sent the right project that would be short, but it would be very high value. And it was like, okay, now you don't have to work for 3 months, go back and write. So it's a constant war that God and I have had over writing and being provided for. And I wish I could tell you it ended, because I think we're always going to bang heads on it. But I now know that I can trust him to take care of me. But my natural instinct is always to solve a problem. And so I am always 10 steps ahead. So like the first time I was to sit and write, I was already thinking about who's going to edit the book. Maybe my grammar is not great, or where do I sell the book, and all these things. And this was in the late 90s, and I was looking at things and realized, oh my God, I'm going to need $50,000 to publish and print this book. Because at the time, we're thinking hardcover. Kindle hasn't come along yet. And so all I saw were these limitations. And God was like, I didn't ask you to publish no book. I said, write the book, And so once I'm obedient to the instruction he gives me, he takes care of the rest. And so by the time I had done what he said, then the rest came along. This is the other book I actually wrote at the time. It's no longer on the market. But this one actually came out the same time as the Caribbeanpreneur book. It's called Guide to Good Love, All the Good Men Are Not Taken. And it was about, and my marriage and all the things I was learning and stuff like that. But the 2 covers of the book and the one that you showed there, paid for them. The photos, the makeup, everything, all of it was done free. The design, you know, because I was obedient. And then at the right time, some friends of mine had a graphics company. And they're like, Nerissa, we need someone to write articles. You know, what do you want? I'm like, well, I need a cover and I need pictures and stuff. And they did the whole thing for me. And so the first that all I paid for when I did the first two books was literally just to buy copies to sell, you know, hardcover. So God is trustworthy, and if you feel that He's given you a book on your heart, your first responsibility is just to write it. And then after that, you will be able to be guided to the next steps. And having somebody like you who has a whole program to really help you get through those stages faster is even better for you, because I had to do all of this on my own, and at the time there was nobody else around doing it, so there wasn't unless I had maybe about $20,000 to spend. So now that we can do these things a lot more economically and also help people who help you avoid the mistakes, that's exactly what you want, is to get that support to get it done, because it's not impossible.
That is so true. It is not impossible. You know, somebody asked a question, and before I ask you, because you talked about writing the book and you talked about getting the cover done for free, so I really want to know about your publishing process for that book. But just to go to somebody's question on what you were saying about charging, no, Ruth knows me, you know, I'm not afraid to charge. I know sometimes I will, but perhaps I don't naturally consider myself a creative. I am a digital marketer. I do marketing. And in the space where I see people making big bucks, and I'm like, oh, I want big bucks as well. No, you know, I'm not at the level where I want to be, and I've seen other people aspiring. But in it at every rung of the ladder, and my advice to anybody who's struggling is charge anyways. Charge it anyways. If you're giving value. I know sometimes when you need to pay the bills, because I've done it, so I need to pay the bills, I lower my rates because, you know, there's no clients. And that unwavering faith that, as a non-Christian, that unwavering faith that Christians have, I don't have it. So I'm not the one to sit down and be like, God, I leave it in your hands. I will pray, but I still can't leave it in His hands. It's like, I have to get up off my butt and get it done. You know what I mean? But so for the person, I think it was Marva who said it. No, Megan. And she's like, that's my struggle too. I believe it's in relation to charging. Once you have good reviews and you know what you're about and you give value, don't go charging $10,000 and you're giving garbage, because people can smell food a mile away and it don't smell good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you need to know what you can. If you decide you want to charge $10,000, then you need to figure out what is it I have to give you to make you be happy to hand over that $10,000 to me, and make sure that you give it and exceed it, so that they're happy to write you that check. In fact, they'll give you a blank one and say, hey, you know, fill it in when you're done, because you have over delivered. It's when we want the most, but without doing anything that's worthy of it. There's nothing wrong in charging your value if you think that is what you deliver and exceed. And so it's for us to work that out and figure out what that is for our environment, for the products we're doing, whatever it is that we're selling.
Exactly. Susan, we're going to be getting to that question because that's really the whole point of this summit. But let us just get into, because I don't think I've heard much about her publishing process, aside from the fact that she did get the cover for free. So if you don't mind, can you just give us a journey into your publishing process, especially since you called a year, what, 1998, 1990 something you were writing and you didn't publish at that time? What? So take that away.
I wanted to be a writer since I left, since I was 5 years old. So I always knew that I was. But again, I had all of these fears about the other stuff that didn't involve writing and really feeling inadequate about it. So the first two books actually weren't published till about 2008, 2009. And that was when I just said, okay, fine, let's just jump in and do it. And by that time, the technology had caught up with itself. And so a lot of it was, you can do online. So I wrote the book myself. I will tell you, the books, like I said, the entrepreneurship book came out of 3 presentations that I've written. And this is what the Holy Spirit showed me, that I'd literally been writing the books all along. I literally just had to compile them. And so all the time I was telling myself I wasn't much of a writer, or I don't have time to sit and write. I had actually been obedient. I was blogging, I was doing different things. So it was literally about bringing all of that content together and creating the books, and presenting the books. So I did all of the initial work myself, the writing, the layout and everything. And I had a couple of friends who read it and, gave me some advice. And so with Create Space at the time, you literally just have to upload your cover, upload the inside, and everything else is done for you. And so the first 2 books were done that way. And because I remember initially being desperate about this one going out, and I'd literally done a digital version. I tried to do my own cover, but the cover was no way as beautiful as this. And so once I got these in my hand, I said, I am never trying to do a cover for myself again. So I literally will invest in having my covers done professionally, because that's important for me, the way they look. So the first 2 books were literally done free of cost. I used the Create Space free ISBN number. You can also, if you know you're going to be publishing multiple books and you really want to have full control, so you can publish them anywhere, print them anywhere you want, then I think it's about 200 US or 250 US to get a batch of ISBN numbers that are, for your publishing line. And that really was the process of getting the books out. They were pretty easy to sell up front, simply because I was already making a name for myself as someone in the thought leadership space around Caribbean entrepreneurship and also women's empowerment. So it was just to continue to do events that would allow me to bring the books and have them sell there. And then also that was opening opportunities for me to travel and speak internationally around entrepreneurship. And also I was creating more workshops and things like that. And getting into the rooms where decisions were being made about funding for Caribbean entrepreneurship, women's entrepreneurship, things like that. And it's really opened lots of doors for me, even for my business, just to continue to work and do the things that I love.
Okay, awesome. So you know what? I think now is time, and I'm just going to segue into that because Susan asked the question. I think it really is worth answering no, given that you just spoke about your businesses. And so the question that Susan asked is, how are you using your books as an entrepreneur? And we have been asking all of our entrepreneurs, all of our entrepreneur guests who have come on to this platform to share with us, beyond the sale of books, what have you created from your book? So go right ahead, please.
Alrighty. So for my hi, can you hear me? Are you hearing me?
Yes, Nerissa, we're hearing
Yes.
you. Go right ahead.
Okay, hold on one second. I think I lost you on my screen.
Are you hearing us?
Yeah, I think there was maybe a short break in communication because there was a slight delay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, I think it's good now.
Alrighty. Okay, good. So for the entrepreneurship book, literally most of the training that I do is around entrepreneurship. So I teach entrepreneurs how to start a business. I do a lot of it in terms of leveraging media because my background is as a journalist and communicator. So I teach them how to use social media, traditional media, to really get their message out there and to really present themselves that they want to reach the audiences that they do. So that's my daily work in terms of always creating mentoring and coaching privately entrepreneurs that do that. It definitely also, like I said, it allows me to be in the rooms where they're making conversations around how money is going to be spent um, to, for governments to do, to set aside money for funding and things like that. I mean, I've been able to travel, go to places around the world just to talk about um, starting a business and what it is that Caribbean people need to do that, because it is a different environment to, let's say, Europe or America. And those are the things that I get to do. So a lot of times it's allowing me to be in the rooms where those conversations are happening. And right now I am working on a new entrepreneurship book, specifically coming out of COVID and looking at all the young people who are now launching businesses, but they're missing a lot of the core things that I think are still not being taught in school or taught in a way that they can immediately learn. So I'm creating new content around that.
Okay, Nerissa, thank you so much for that. I wanted to follow on that, but let me ask another question. As creatives, I am pushing authorpreneurship. I don't know if everyone is able to do what I am doing. So I wrote 20 manuscripts in 1 year. I am coaching. I am doing all of these things and helping authors. While there are some persons who are struggling with just writing, realistically, how much time will be left for writing if you also have an entrepreneurial focus? How do you work both?
Okay. This was always one of my biggest fights. As a business owner, also as a mom, I have to give time to my kids. And it's funny, I have 4 kids, but one of them is a night owl. So after everybody's asleep, that's when she wants to talk and have her conversations. So it means I pretty much have to be available day and night to deal with them. So it's like, okay, so when does that leave time for you to do other things? But what I had to do was I had to make my writing time sacred. So the same way you would make time to sleep, you'd make time to eat, go to the movies or exercise or whatever is important to you, I had to create the time where I said, this is writing. And so for me, that's first thing in the morning when the house is still quiet, before they're up. And it's now easier to do now that they're older and they don't necessarily need me to get up and make breakfast and all of these things to get them to school and stuff. So it's me being disciplined to say, I am going to get up and I am going to write. And I find that once I have given writing that time, the rest of the day just kind of runs smoothly. I have no guilt because I know I've already put in my, whether it's my 1,000 words, my 2,000 words, whatever the target was that I set for myself. And then I could go on to the other aspects of my day. It's when I don't give myself that time, because for me, there's a scripture. I know, Raquel, you're not a Christian, but there's a scripture. Paul used to start and sometimes he would end the books that he wrote with, I write so my joy will be full, right? So your joy will be full. And so I use that as my phrase, that I write so my joy will be full. I literally write because it makes me feel good. The way, somebody would go exercise and they all those endorphins and stuff, writing does that for me. So it's not necessarily just about doing it for the work or because I want to publish a book. I literally need to write because that's how I hear God speak to me. That's how he releases the wisdom a lot of times ahead of things that are going to come, So I have to make that time. So whatever you're doing in your life, you have to prioritize writing just like you would do other things, and tell everybody, I'm not available. I'm not available this time. I can't do this at this time because this is my writing time. You have to know what time of day works for you based on your temperament, based on the life that you have, based on your level of discipline. Some people need to write in 15-minute blocks because that's all the time they have. So set your phone to alarm every 2 hours and give you 15 minutes just to sit there and churn out 500 words. And once you create that discipline, you'll find that you will run to it just like everything else because it'll become that important to you.
Oh, I love that. You have touched such an important point. I know we're running out of time and it's almost time for the Q&A and persons are bubbling. One of the things with authors is that, especially when I speak to authors, they want inspiration. They're waiting on the muse to come before they write. And so you talk about making a schedule and committing and doing it just like you would any other thing. So you're treating it like a profession.
Yes.
And so I want to thank you for saying that. What has been the most, I know you say writing brings you joy. So what has been the most rewarding thing since you have been writing books? What is the most rewarding thing that has happened?
I think every time somebody tells me they buy a book, I feel rewarded, especially if they tell me that something in the book connected with them. That means a lot to me, especially if I know that like I said, I write the books I want to read. If I'm looking for someone to inspire me, but I don't see it, and I will say those things in my head and I'll put it in a book, and it just so happens that somebody else. So for me, that's a simple. I would write even if it's only one person read my book, and it was only me. I literally feel that compelled to write and even to share. And now that we have so many ways that we can share books, we literally don't have those barriers anymore about that. So for me, that's important. I think I just feel blessed every time I get to do it. So I don't take it for granted because I do remember all the years of struggle. And you quoted a stat, I think, on the first day about the fact that what is about 50 or 80% of people think they have a book in them, but only about 1% ever write it. So every time you get to the end or whatever it is you put at the end of your book and you can hold it in your hand and say, I did this, you should celebrate. So for me, it's rewarding that I can see the pile starting to add up. It's not where I want it to be. I don't have 20 books or 40 or whatever, but I am blessed every time I get to do that. So that's my own reward, is that I'm obedient to God and just sharing what's there. Can I just say something?
Awesome.
I just want to say something about that quote that you about the time. What changed it for me from writing when I felt like writing was I came across a quote from, I think it's Alfred Hitchcock, and someone asked him about, oh, so when do you write when you're inspired? He said, yes, I do. I just happen to be inspired every day at 8 o'clock. So if you show up, the muse is going to show up. If you don't show up, the muse won't show up. And I've learned that if I would get up, and I get up at 5 or 6 or whenever, I get up and I sit there and I'm like, I don't know what to write. But if I just start pounding, after about 3, 4, 5 minutes, when that muscle starts going, and I'm just flowing, and I'm like, oh, you showed up, hey, because I was there, so it came and met me. You won't, if you wait to be inspired, it won't happen. You never will.
All
right, Susan. She's inspired every day at 9.
Exactly. I love that, Susan. So, Susan, we're going to get to your question, and I will allow you to unmute in a few and ask your question. But we do want for Nerissa to share with us her bonus that she has for the attendees here. And if you do have like an upcoming event or course or something that you'd like to also share with us, please do let us know what's happening.
All righty. So my bonus for you, I'm hoping that there are going to be a couple new authors that need it. If you email me at info at trulycaribbean.net, I will send you a little workbook that I've created of 12 strategies to promote your book. So I'm giving you 12 of the things that I've used, or I know other people have used, to help you get that book out the door once it's done, because you do need that visibility. That visibility is what is going to open the other doors for the other job opportunities. So you want to do that well. So if you just email me at info@trulycaribbean.net, and I know the team will send you those details in the email. I will be happy to send you that little booklet, and hopefully it will help.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So do you have any upcoming events, anything that's in the works that you'd like to share with us?
I am working silently. I don't want to put a date on it yet, but I am working to start doing some live webinars, especially for women and people that have a challenge with visibility. It's going to be called the Visibility Project. And it really is about helping you to step into that space and show up so you can talk about your book, talk about whatever it is you're doing. And we will just work through what those strategies can be, whether it's social media, whether it's other platforms. It's really just to give you a space where you can come and brainstorm with other like minds. So that's going to be coming. So if people follow me online, and I know you're going to share my details with them, once that is ready, they'll be able to connect with that. It's not quite ready yet because I am working on a couple of books that I want to, complete before I go there.
All right, awesome.